everyone, it's Renee with Delaney Jane Cards. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have a second video using this Nasturtium stamp set. It's a Hero Arts stamp set, and Hero Arts is the sponsor for the Die Cut Divas blog challenge this month, and I did a video. I also participated in their blog over there, and I'll have that linked below. But this video here, I wanted to show kind of an alternative way to use your die cut machine. So this first part has nothing to do with die cutting. It has to do with my love of coloring all the things in all of the ways. So what I did there was stamped this Nasturtium onto some Canson XL watercolor paper. Then I heat embossed it with some clear embossing powder. And I pulled out some of these pans from my Gazai Tombi set. Don't even remember what numbers they are. There's a couple of greens, a yellow, a red, and orange, and in the future there is a blue. So what I did is just use my water brush, and I filmed this one a while ago, and I have been playing with watercolors more and more. I love to color all things. It doesn't usually matter. Copics are usually my go-to. But I would love to get better at watercolor. So this one is not a better at watercolor video. I use these, they're kind of thick paints, the way that I mix them up. I use them more like acrylic paint, I guess. I mean, I use them like watercolors, but I use them a lot like acrylic paints. So what I did here was just wet each of the leaves, and then I dropped in some of the color and let it kind of do its own thing. And I really was working with the water brush, but I was working with a little puddle of water, so I wasn't worried about it squeezing out or anything. So then once I had some color in the leaves, then I added a little bit of darker color where there would be a shadow, where something is under something else, and in the folds of leaves and stuff like that. So then I added more of an olive color to the leaves just to kind of make them a little more earth tone green. And then I very carefully painted in all of the vines and the stems to the flowers. The other video that I have using this stamp set, I Copic colored it. So I thought it was kind of fun to do something completely different and watercolor this. So after I did the leaves, I pulled out some yellows, oranges, and reds to do the actual flowers. And here, I'm doing the traditional watercolor thing where you don't paint two areas next to each other, but I do have this heat emboss, so it's not that big of a deal. And I'm not putting a ton of water down, really. I'm using this water brush and dabbing the paintbrush off on that really, really paint-filled paper towel there in the corner. But I didn't need to care that I was painting next to each other. It all blends in together. And like I said, this is not a watercolor tutorial. I like to watch people color and paint, so I left this in. The real point of this video is all of the fun things that I do with the die cut machine that you can do too. They're super easy and they just are kind of interesting. But I left all of this painting in because I thought it was kind of fun. I got a much different look on this Nasturtium. I will link the other video so you can watch me Copic color that one, and it turned out more realistic. This one is definitely more artistic. And I'm not sure artistic was what I was going for, but that's how this all turned out. And it's fine with me because it was fun. In the end, it was fun. So here I'm adding a little bit of orange and some red to deepen the tones in the Nasturtium flower. When I first got this stamp set, I had no idea what a Nasturtium even looked like. And when I Googled them, I seen several colors, and I really enjoyed the yellow, orange looking ones. I think they actually start out one color and then kind of change as they mature and bloom. So I don't know. And then I pulled out this purple and I added that into the deeper, darker areas. So yellow orange, red, and now purple I'm adding to these flowers to get the depth that I was hoping for. I am not a very good watercolorist. I am not a watercolorist at all. I'm a card maker. What I love about being a card maker is I do not have to specialize in anything and I can play with everything. I think that's called a jack of all trades, where you don't have to master anything, but you can meddle in everything. And that's what I think I have going on in my craft room. Watercolor being one of those things. Now, I've had this Gonzai Tombi set for a very long time. It's like, I think, a 36 set. Here I'm adding some blue to these leaves to deepen the shadows. And I really do like how that worked with the green. And I just kind of, I don't know, dotted it around in all of the darkest places. Those leaves are kind of cupped in, so in the center where the drawing is cupped, or to look like it's cupped, I did add the darker shadow. So here I pulled out another blue, and I am going to paint in the background. And I added water to all these little areas. I wanted this to be really, really, really light. It didn't stay really light. It didn't. I did keep adding color, and I got it to be bright and bold, and definitely not light. It's fine in the end. It does look really pretty, and sometimes a really pretty bold floral is super fun, and it kind of goes with the super artsy, I'm going to call it artsy and not just really bad watercoloring, but artsy look of the floral. But I just kind of dotted this color in and let it move in the water, which is what you're really supposed to do with watercolor, I think. I don't know. I should probably take some watercolor classes if I really wanted to get good at watercoloring, but I am a self-taught Copic colorist, so I figure maybe I can teach myself how to use all these fancy watercolor things. I have this Gonzai Tombi set, which is the only pan set that I have, and I have a Peerless watercolor set, and then I have some watercolor pencils. So I guess I need to just practice with them more, I think. So then once I put the blue around, then I added more water because I really wanted the edge to blur out. I mean, in the end, it doesn't really matter because you don't see all that. I don't know why I was all working at it so hard, but whatever. I was enjoying myself, I guess, and learning about the watercolor, and it was practice. So here's where when I went in, I added some darker blues, and then I really liked the way that made the flowers kind of jump off the page. So I thought I would add just a little bit more of that, and this is how the color in the background gets darker and darker and darker because I keep messing with it and I keep adding blue and it's just getting dark. Like I said, it is fine in the end. I do really like the card and the contrast and the colors. I think they're beautiful together. The blue and the orange are complementary colors. Is that what they are? Complementary colors? I think. I don't know. They are like, they're not. I wouldn't wear them together. Don't wear them together. Then I got the liquid pixie dust out, and I added a little bit of this liquid pixie dust mixed with water to each of these flowers. And I did pull out a different water brush to do that. I didn't want, if I had to do any more painting, I didn't want the liquid pixie dust in my brush. And then I also added some to the background just to give it some shimmer and shine. And then, of course, my impatientness, I dried it. So here is some cardstock that I pulled out. It kind of coordinates with the color of the flowers. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to die cut the die from this orangish cardstock. And I will end up layering it over, but I have this stencil here. It's called Bold Florals, and I decided to ink blend some kind of tone on tone with some ripe persimmon. Is that ripe persimmon? But I, at this point, did not own any pixie spray, and I was not bright enough to tape this down, so it does slide around a bunch. I mean, it's a handmade card and it looks okay-ish. So, so I did the stenciling and then I went around the edges with Rusty Hinge. That's Rusty Hinge, yeah. So just to kind of blend out that stenciling just a little bit. And then I also went around the inside edge of this die cut, negative die cut space. Then I lined my stencil back up, and now I was smart enough to get the tape back out, and I put a couple of pieces of tape, and you see it's kind of damp, so it didn't want to stick. So what I did is I stuck the tape to the back of the paper and then stuck the tape to the tape on the front, if that makes any sense at all. And then I used my rubber mat and then I ran it through my die cut machine in the sandwich that I would normally use for an embossing folder. And what it does is it impresses the stencil into the cardstock. So not only do I have this stenciling, but I also have dimension and texture. And then I just kind of rub the rest of the ink that I had on my little blending brush there onto the background panel. And here is what it will look with that flower. See how that flower just jump right off the page because of that blue background? It's just ridiculous. So I think if you have like blue eyes, if you wore this deep kind of orange red tone, I think your eyes would just be absolutely stunning. They would just jump right out of your face. But just look at that. Look how that just changes the way that looked from when it was against the white cardstock or the white watercolor paper to when it's against the orange. So because nothing was lined up, I had to just place that down and then I trimmed the watercolor paper around so that it didn't stick off the edges. And then I had to matte this, and I thought, what a better matte than the same color blue that I painted the background with. And then frame that all, cut all the pieces so that I could frame that with black. Then off screen, I stamped and heat embossed in white this XOXO on some black cardstock, and then I die cut that with my Simon Says stamp strips, sentiment strips, and then kind of slid it over and die cut it again so I had the perfect edge all the way around. Then I layered up all of my pieces. I put my panel onto that aqua blue cardstock, and then I did put a little piece of foam tape on that sentiment because I am going to be popping it up, and I had that right there, so I took care of that step right away. And then I adhered this to my black panel. And you see how it's just a little tiny frame of black around the outside. And it really, I think it grounds the whole thing, having the black there, and then ties in this little black sentiment label. Otherwise, I think the black would look kind of out of place because the only other black there is the outline for the flowers. So I decided that this little like inlet here would be the perfect place for this XOXO. And then I pulled out some little sequins here and found some that kind of coordinated really nicely with my image and all of the colors that I used. And I just creatively placed them all the way around the image. I wanted to just highlight different parts, so I used those like clear dark orange ones to highlight the darker orange parts of my flowers, and then just added several here and there. It took me longer to place some of these than it probably took me to make the whole background. I just get kind of picky when it comes to embellishments. There were some clear ones in there, and I pulled those out too to kind of highlight the leaves because I didn't have green. And it just kind of adds just a little bit. I do have some like dewdrops in my drawer, and I remember having to have them when they came out, and I have yet to use them. I never seem to find a card where I can use them. But I went ahead and placed all of these sequins, and there's like quite a few. I placed all the sequins onto the flowers and around the flowers and around the die cut area and moved them around until I was absolutely satisfied with them. Like I said, this probably took longer than making that entire background. And that was some stenciling and some die cutting and some embossing and some ink blending, and there was a lot to that background, and it took longer to put these these sequins down. So I just stuck it down with some of my best glue ever. And okay, let's talk jewel picker things here. I have a couple different ones on my desk. I have the one from Scrap Perfect, and I have this Marvy one, and I have a Quick Sticks, I think. I love-hate relationship with them. They don't always work. Stuff doesn't always stick, or stuff sticks too much. And I don't know. What do you use? Do you have that really expensive crystal katana? Is it worth it? Um, because like when the Teflon bone folder came out, I did buy that. That was kind of expensive. I still have it, but mine is like worn down and has creases in it and all sorts of stuff. So I'm not sure that that crystal katana is worth the money or not. I'd love your opinion. And then here I used some glossy accents to fill in the sequins so that I knew that they were going to stay put. And then I added some tiny little drops here and there, all kind of all over. I wanted to add some like dewdrops and like splatters, kind of like it had splattered out from this background. And I really do like how those turned out. I think they add so much texture and shine and interest to this panel, and I think that they were a good choice. You tell me, do you think they were a good choice? So here are some still shots of my card. I would absolutely love to know if you have done embossing with a stencil, if you have mastered watercoloring, and I'd like to know what you think of my card. Leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think. And subscribe and share. And as always, give cards generously. Bye.